So we'll start from where we left. When you say that a prayer is a statement of what is so, are you saying that God does nothing? That everything which happens after a prayer is a result of the prayer's action? If you believe that God is some omnipotent being who hears all prayers, says yes to some, no to others, and maybe but not now to the rest, you are mistaken. By what rule of thumb would God decide? If you believe that God is the creator and decider of all things in your life, you are mistaken. God is the observer, not the creator. And God stands ready to assist you in living your life, but not in the way you might expect. It is not God's function to create or uncreate the circumstances or conditions of your life. God created you in the image and likeliness of God. You have created the rest through the power God has given you. God created the process of life and life itself as you know it. Yet, God gave you a free choice to do with life as you will. In this sense, your will for you is God's will for you. You are living your life the way you are living your life, and I have no preference in the matter. This is the grand illusion in which you have engaged, that God cares one way or the other what you do. I do not care what you do. And that is a hard for you to hear. Yet, do you care what your children do when you send them out to play? It is a matter of consequence to you whether they play tag or hide and seek or pretend. No, it is not. Because you know they are perfectly safe. You have placed them in an environment which you consider friendly and very okay. Of course, you will always hope that they do not hurt themselves. And if they do, you will be right there to help them, heal them, allow them to feel safe again, to be happy again, to go and play again another day. But whether they choose hide and seek or pretend will not matter to you the next day either. You will tell them, of course, which games are dangerous to play, but you cannot stop your children from doing dangerous things. Not always, not forever, not in every moment from now until death. It is the wise parent who knows this. Yet, the parent never stops caring about the outcome. It is this dichotomy, not caring deeply about the process, but caring deeply about the result, that comes close to describing the dichotomy of God. Yet, God, in a sense, does not even care about the outcome, not the ultimate outcome. This is because the ultimate outcome is assured. And this is the second great illusion of man, that the outcome of life is in doubt. It is this doubt about ultimate outcome that has created your greatest enemy, which is fear. For if you doubt outcome, then you must doubt creator. You must doubt God. And if you doubt God, you must live in fear and guilt all your life. So what is he talking about here? What is the final outcome? Or what is any human being's biggest fear? Is death. And he is, God is being very clear that the ultimate outcome is decided. And it's a clear fact. It is hard to digest, Anybody and everybody who is born on planet Earth will eventually die. When he dies, under what circumstances he dies, what age he dies, that varies. But there is no person who is born on this planet Earth and has lived ever. Because what actually dies is just the body. Because the body belongs to School of Earth. So the ultimate outcome is not exactly death in the literal sense, because what dies is just the body, and what is eternal is the soul. And the death is actually the liberation of the soul. That is the final outcome. But there is so much of fear around that thought that हम उसको तो डाउट करते ही करते हैं, फाइनल आउटकम को भी, और साथ में हम क्रिएटर को भी डाउट करते हैं. And many of you who've been with us, in the earlier books, we, always have this definition of fear. What exactly is fear? It's a futuristic false event appearing to be real. It is not reality. वो future में है, अभी नहीं आया है वो. But हम उसको ये assume कर लेते हैं कि बस यही आ गया है. It's a false evidence which is appearing to be real. It's not reality. Maybe it could be the reality, but wait for that moment that it becomes reality. So don't have fear. So you know why when we were doing the book Power of Now, why do they say always be in the present? Because जब आप अपनी attention future में करते हो तो आप anxious होते हो, fearful होते हो, पता नहीं कल क्या होगा. But जब आप अपनी attention present moment में रखते हो, then you know anything which is going to come will come in the now. And when we are talking about the ultimate outcome, it's exactly not that pleasant, but it is the process which everybody will go through. And that process appears to be slightly different than what the actual intended purpose is, because the ultimate outcome of death of the body is actually liberation of the soul. If you doubt God's intentions and God's ability to produce this ultimate result, then how can you ever relax? How can you ever truly find peace? Yet, God has full power to match intentions with results. You cannot and will not believe in this, even though you claim that God is all powerful. And so you have to create in your imagination a power equal to God, in order that you may find a way for God's will to be thwarted. And so you have created in your mythology the being you call devil. You have even imagined a god at war with this being, thinking that God solves problems the way you do. Finally, you have actually imagined that God could lose this war. All of this violates everything you say you know about God. But this doesn't matter. You live your illusion and thus feel your fear, all out of your decision to doubt God. But if you made a new decision, what then would be the result? I tell you this, you would live as a Buddha did, as Jesus did, as did every saint you have ever idolized. Yet, as with most of these saints, people would not understand you. And when you try to explain your sense of peace, your joy in life, your inner ecstasy, they would listen to your words but not hear them. They would try to repeat your words but would add to them. They would wonder how you could have what they cannot find, and they would grow jealous. Soon jealousy would turn into rage, and in their anger, they would try to convince you that it is you who do not understand God. And if they were unsuccessful at tearing you from your joy, they would seek to harm you. So enormous would be their rage. And when you told them it does not matter, that even death cannot interrupt your joy nor change your truth, they would surely kill you. Then, when they saw the peace with which you accepted death, they would call you saint and love you again. For it is the nature of people to love, then destroy, then love again that which they value most. But why? Why do we do that? All human actions are motivated at their deepest level of one of two emotions, fear or love. In truth, there are only two emotions, only two words in the language of the soul. They are the opposite ends of the great polarity which I created when I produced the universe and your world as you know it today. These are the 2 points, the alpha and the omega, which allow the system you call relativity to be. Without these 2 points, without these two ideas about things, no other idea could exist. Every human thought and every human action is based in either love or fear. There is no other human motivation, and all other ideas are but derivatives of these two. They are simply different versions, different twists on the same theme. Think on this deeply, and you will see that it is true. This is why I have called the sponsoring thought. It is either a thought of love or fear. This is the thought behind the thought behind the thought. It is the first thought. It is prime force. It is the raw energy that derives the engine of human experiences. So, the entire gambit of the emotions is between these two words. We have love, which is the highest, above the line, positive feelings, and we have fear, which is, down at the bottom, the lowest. All other emotions are, probably in the middle of them. And the entire thought process, if you go to the thought behind the thought behind the thought, and you get to the main thought, it'll either be a thought of love, which includes gratitude, which includes joy, which includes bliss, or it'll be from down the line, which is, always governed with fear. Fear, डर से हमें गुस्सा भी आता है. All these below the line negative emotions are all deep rooted and coming from the word of fear. I remember discussing it with the group 2 days back when I shared my experience with one of my cousins. When I said I'm a God-fearing person, and she immediately corrected me and said, why do you want to be God-fearing when you can be God-living? So, just see the connection. Love kahan hai, fear kahan hai? It's just a matter of word. Both are 4-letter words. But the association and the way your brain and the mind works with that particular word, what, how it resonates with what you want to do is totally different. So हमारे सारे गैम्बिट ऑफ इमोशंस या लव से कनेक्ट होंगे या फेयर से कनेक्ट होंगे. चॉइस हमारे पास, दोनों ही गॉड ने बनाए. इट इज अ रेनबो गैम्बिट ऑफ इमोशंस. ऑल इमोशंस आर देयर. बट हमें क्या चाहिए, हमने किस परमाइश से उसको चूज करना है. दैट चॉइस, दैट फ्री विल गॉड हैज गिवन टू अस. And here is how human behavior produces repeat experience after repeat experience. It is why humans love, then destroy, then love again. Always there is the swing from one emotion to the other. Love sponsors fear sponsors love, sponsors fear. And the reason is found in the first lie. The lie which you hold as the truth about God, that God cannot be trusted, that God's love cannot be dependent upon, that God's acceptance for you is conditional, that the ultimate outcome is thus in doubt. For if you cannot depend on God's love to always be there, on whose love can you depend? If God retreats and withdraws when you do not perform properly, will not mere mortals also? And so it is that in the moment you pledge your highest love, you greet your greatest fear. So the first thing you worry about after saying I love you is whether you will hear it back. And if you hear it back, then you begin immediately to worry that the love you have just found, you will lose. And so all action becomes a reaction, defense against loss, even as you seek to defend yourself against the loss of God. Yet, if you knew who you are, that you are the most magnificent, most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created, you would never have fear. For who could reject such wondrous magnificence? Not even God could find fault in such a being. But you do not know who you are, and you think you are a great deal less. And where did you get this idea of how much less than magnificent you are? From the only people whose word you would take on everything, from your mother and your father. These are the people who love you the most. Why would they lie to you? Yet, have they not told you that you are too much of this and not enough of that? Have they not reminded you that you are to be seen and not heard? Have they not scolded you in some of the moments of your greatest exuberance? And did they not encourage you to set aside some of your wildest imagining? These are the messages you have received, and though they do not meet the criteria and are thus not messages from God, they might as well have been, for they have come from the gods of your universe, surely enough. It was your parents who taught you that love is conditional, and you have felt their conditions many times. And that is the experience you take into your own love relationships. So there is, a lot of information in these lines. Everything you are right now is the conditioning, the belief system, and the programming by your parents, your teachers, primary teachers, especially till your, and this entire programming of a human is developed till the age of 8, maximum 9. Because उसके बाद हमारा cognition develop हो जाता है, हमारी reasoning की ability strong हो जाती है, and we know this is good, this is bad. We are able to perceive the things. The mind has that cognition to perceive things as good or bad. उससे पहले छोटे बच्चे के लिए सब good है, वो रोएगा जरूर, but he is enjoying each and everything, whatever is coming his way, because for him, or on a general notion, love is always unconditional. Love conditional कैसे बना? अगर हमने अपने बच्चे को किसी कारण से डांटा, that does not mean that I don't love him. This is the misconception in our age and in general across humanity, that if we scold our kids or if we scold a person for something which our mind feels that should be done in this manner, okay, it's not necessary that is the right way. But dantna does not mean I don't love you. I am concerned about you and I love you deep down. That is why I am telling you. आप राह जाते सड़क पे किसी को नहीं बोलते ए ये क्या कर रहा है इसको ऐसे ठीक कर. No, you will only give your suggestions to your loved ones. Love can have different ways and means of expression. A kiss or a hug is not just love. You know, एक बड़ा भाई अगर छोटे भाई को चिढ़ा रहा है उसमें भी उसका प्यार है. That's the way some people express love. It's okay. But एक notion ये बन गया है कि you know, if we are hugging the person or kissing the person, that is only love. Why? Who made this definition? My love for my kids or my love for the persons in my life remains intact. But doesn't mean कि मैं अगर मुझे लगेगा कि वो कुछ गलत बोल रहे हैं तो मैं उनको रोकूंगा नहीं. Why not? As a human, as a father, as different relationships, I have different responsibilities. But that does not mean I don't love him or her. So please get this notion out that love में डांट नहीं हो सकती. सब कुछ है यार. Love is the entire gambit. The only thing that does not fit is fear. So it's okay. Love is truly unconditional. हमने conditions बनाई हैं. You know, over the passage ये programming जो हमारे अंदर teachers से, parents से जो दी गई है, we are a direct result of our entire programming. And the interesting part is in healing, if we talk about in language of the healers, these programmings and these belief systems are basically the layers which a therapist has to peel off to get to that true core of yourself. मतलब पहले हम 40 साल लेयर पे लेयर पे लेयर पे लेयर डलवाते हैं और उसके बाद एक एक करके करवाते हैं so that we are in line with our true self. So ये सारी belief systems के बने हुए हैं and they are not a reality. Everybody will have different belief systems depending on his upbringing, depending on how his experiences have been during his childhood up to the age of 8, 9 and in some cases till the age of 10. उसके बाद belief बहुत rare change होते हैं, वो बन जाते हैं. So those are the very important stages for your children. These are the messages you've received, and though they do not meet the criteria and are thus not messages from God, they might as well have been, for they have come from the gods of your universe, Sholina. It was your parents who taught you that love is conditional. You have felt their conditions many times, and that is the experience you take into your own love relationships. It is also the experience you bring to me. From this experience, you draw your conclusions about me. Within this framework, you speak your truth. God is a loving God, you say, but if you break his commandments, he will punish you with eternal banishment and everlasting damnation. Or have you not experienced the banishment of your own parents? Do you not know the pain of their damnation? How then could you imagine it to be any different with me? You have forgotten what it was like to be loved without condition. You do not remember the experience of the love of God. And so you try to imagine what God's love must be like based on what you see of love in the world. You have projected the role of parent onto God, and have thus come up with a God who judges and rewards or punishes based on how good they feel about what you've been up to that. But this is a simplistic view of God based on your mythology. It has nothing to do with who I am. Having thus created an entire thought system about God based on human experience rather than spiritual truths, you then create an entire reality around love. It is a fear based reality rooted in the idea of a fearful, vengeful God. Its sponsoring thought is wrong. But to deny that would be to disrupt your whole theology. And through the new theology, which would replace it, would truly be your salvation. You cannot accept it because the idea of a God who is not to be feared, who will not judge, and who has no cause to punish is simply too magnificent to be embraced within even your grandest notion of who and what God is. This fear based love reality dominates your experience of love. Indeed, actually creates it. For not only do you see yourself receiving love which is conditional, you also watch yourself giving it in the same way. And even while you withhold and retreat and set your conditions, a part of you knows that this is not what love really is. Still, you seem powerless to change the way you dispense it. You learned the hard way. You tell yourself, and you will be damned if you are going to leave yourself vulnerable again. Yet, the truth is, you'll be damned if you don't. By your own mistaken thoughts about love, do you damn yourself never to experience it purely. So too do you damn yourself to know me as I really am until you do, for you shall not be able to deny me forever, and the moment will come for our reconciliation. Every action taken by human beings is based in love or fear, not simply those dealing with relationships, decisions affecting business, industry, politics, religion, the education of your young, the social agenda of your nations, the economic goals of your society, choices involving war, peace, attack, defense, aggression, submission, determinations to covet or give away, to save or to share, to unite or to divide. Every single free choice you have ever undertaken arises out of one of the only possible thoughts. There are a thought of love or a thought of fear. Fear is the energy which contracts, closes down, draws in, runs, hides, holds, harms. Love is the energy which expands, opens up, sends out, stays, reveals, shares, heals. Fear wrap our bodies in clothing. Love allows us to stand naked. Fear clings to and clutches all that we have. Love gives all the way we have away. Fear holds close. Love holds dear. Fear grasps. Love lets go. Fear rankles. Love soothes. Fear attacks. Love amends. Every human thought, word, or deed is based in one emotion or the other. You have no choice about this because there is nothing else from which to choose, but you have a free choice about which of these to select. So, coming from that notion that, the entire thing around is either from a premise of love or from a premise of fear. It's just, oscillating between these two extremes. But there's, it's also mentioned, in the last paragraphs, that, we have this notion that God is, probably judging us all the time. And it's a very common notion we have, where we always feel that we are being continuously judged by others. And that is one of the major reasons for so much of depression and anxiety, that we are so fearful of being judged by others. And in the same way, we have this notion that God is also judging us. And God is going to put a label. ये तो ठीक नहीं है, इसको तो हेल में भेजना पड़ेगा, इसको तो तेल में सड़ाना पड़ेगा, ये ठीक है, इसको मैं हेवन में जगह दे सकता हूँ. This is all just the myths and fancies created by the so-called religious people in order to make you God-fearing rather than make you God-loving. That is basic reality. आपके actions जो इस planet Earth पे हैं, they are good, they are bad, are part of your karmic account. It has nothing to do with whether you are going to go to heaven or whether you're going to go to hell. And honestly speaking, what I have read till now, or whatever I have come across, there is nothing known as heaven or hell. And that's hard reality. और हम सारा टाइम हमें भी ये बोला गया है, तू नरक में जाएगा अगर ऐसे काम करेगा. There are realms. So depending what kind of a human you are, there are different realms. Heaven is also at one realm, and hell is also at one realm. And God is not judging us. He never judges. The only thing that God does is he forgives and he loves. At the end of the day, if your child comes to you, आप उसको डांटोगे, जो मर्जी करोगे, but you will forgive him and love him. We are God's children. So वो अगर हमारे को कुछ करता है, the God, Almighty, Divine Force, Energy, whatever name you want to call it, it's absolutely personal. But the only thing God does is he forgives and he loves unconditionally. वो नहीं जज करता. ये हमारा माइंड है जो हमें कॉन्स्टेंटली उस जजर माइंडसेट में रखने की कोशिश करता है, so that we become very critical of ourselves and of others around us. But whereas God is only there to forgive and love. He has no other role. You make it sound so easy, and yet in the moment of decision, fear wins more often than not. Why is that? You have been taught to live in fear. You have been told about the survival of the fittest and the victory of the strongest and success of the cleverest. Precious little is said about the glory of the most loving. And so you strive to be the fittest, the strongest, the cleverest in one way or another. And if you see yourself as something less than this in any situation, you fear loss. For you have been told that to be less is to lose. And so, of course, you choose the action fear sponsors. And that is what you have been taught. Yet, I teach you this. When you choose the action love sponsors, then you will do more than survive. Then you will do more than win. Then you will do more than succeed. Then will you experience the full glory of who you really are and who you can be. To do this, you must turn aside the teachings of your well-meaning but misinformed worldly tutors and hear the teachings of those whose wisdom comes from another source. These are There are many such teachers among you, as always there have been, for I will not leave you with those who would show you, teach you, guide you, and remind you of these truths. Yet, the greatest reminder is not anyone outside you, but the voice within you. This is the first tool that I use because it is the most accessible. The voice within is the loudest voice with which I speak because it is the closest to you. It is the voice which tells you whether everything else is true or false, right or wrong, good or bad. And as you have defined it, it is the radar that sets the course, steers the ship, guides the journal, if you but let it. It is the voice which tells you right now whether the very words you are reading are words of love or words of fear. By this measure, can you determine whether there are words to hear or words to ignore? So, the voice inside of you is actually the voice of God, but somehow we confuse the voice of the mind with the voice of the God. So, I mean, it's kind of tricky to know whether it is the experience, it's the voice of the God or it's the voice of your mind, because mind is always a very tricky guy. But in this whole process, yes, a lot of practice is required, but this is something what you call intuition. Sixth sense, intuition, gut feel, and a lot of people have experienced these things. You're going to a place, somehow you get this notion that it does not feel right or it feels amazing, and it actually turns out the same. So it's not that you've not heard that voice. You have heard that voice, but somehow the voice of the mind is so strong that ये voice उसके बीच में छुप जाती है. So, we need to work more on our intuitions, and there are ways, there are exercises, you start doing chakra meditation for your third eye, which is here between the two eyes. And if you start doing those meditations, you will be able to enhance your intuitive powers. You will be able to, get close to and, listen the voice of God more than, listening to the voice of the mind. Because a layman, it is difficult to know the difference whether it is the voice of the mind or is it the voice of God. So yeah, there is a lot of practice that goes into that, but yeah, it's possible and a lot of people do it. And I'm sure you all have had certain experiences in your this life where you actually heard the voice of God and there was some kind of an intuition and actually came true. It could be for positive, it could be for negative. You said that when I always choose the action that love sponsors, then I will experience the full glory of who I am and who I can be. Will you expand on this, please? There is only one purpose for all of life, and that is for you and all that lives to experience fullest glory. Everything else you say, think, or do is attendant to that function. There is nothing else for your soul to do and nothing else your soul wants to do. The wonder of this purpose is that it is never ending, and ending is a limitation, and God's purpose is without such a boundary. Should there come a moment in which you experience yourself in your fullest glory, you will in that instant imagine an even greater glory to fulfill. The more you are, the more you can become. And the more you can become, the more you can yet be. The deepest secret is that life is not a process of discovery, but a process of creation. You are not discovering yourself, but creating yourself anew. Seek, therefore, not to find who you are, seek to determine who you want to be. There are those who say that life is a school, that we are here to learn specific lessons, that once we graduate, we can go on to larger pursuits, no longer shackled by the body. Is this correct? It is another part of your mythology based on human experience. Life is not a school? No. Then why we are not here to learn lessons? No. Then why are we here? To remember and recreate who you are. I have told you over and over again, you do not believe me, yet that is well as it should be. For truly, if you do not create yourself as who you are, that you cannot be. Okay, you've lost me. Let's go back to the school bit. I have heard teacher after teacher tell us that life is a school. I am frankly shocked to hear you deny that. School is a place you go if there is something you do not know that you want to know. It is not a place you go if you already know a thing and simply want to experience your knowingness. Life, as you call it, is an opportunity for you to know experientially what you already know conceptually. You need learn nothing to do this. You need merely remember what you already know and act on it. I'm not sure I understand. Let's start here. The soul, your soul, knows all there is to know all the time. There is nothing hidden to it, nothing unknown. Yet, knowing is not enough. The soul seeks to experience. You can know yourself to be generous, but unless you do something which displays generosity, you have nothing but a concept. You can know yourself to be kind, but unless you do someone a kindness, you have nothing but an idea about yourself. It is your soul's only desire to turn its grandest concept about itself into its greatest experience. Until concept becomes experience, all there is speculation. I have been speculating about myself for a long time, longer than you and I could collectively remember, longer than the age of this universe times the age of the universe. You see then how young is, how new is my experience of myself. So it's clearly mentioned that life, you know, Earth is not a school, but it's more of a playground where you come with all the knowledge. The soul has all the knowledge, and you are here to get that experience, that experiential lesson. That is where all your experiences on this school of earth come in handy, so that you can get the wisdom, because knowledge is already there with the soul. It is only that the experiential part. So, it's more of a playground where you come with all the knowledge, but you have to experience it exactly to know what you know, and what is the wisdom out of it.